Can't stop this humming, huh? Good evening. That's not bothering y'all, huh? All right. James is a bad brother. Let's give James a hand. Now I have another hand that I want to be given. I want all the 8th graders to stand up for a minute. Stand up for 1 second. I want you to turn and face your parents and your family and your friends. And I want you to give them a hand. Thank you, thank you. First of all, good evening, Malcolm X. Yeah. Oh, I gotta say Jumbo to get a response? Okay, Jumbo Malcolm X. Okay, all right, y'all just like Garvey, okay. My name is Kwame Kilpatrick. Like James said, I was born and raised here, and I think it's important that you all know that, because a lot of times they tell you you can't be what you want to be when you come from the city of Detroit. But I know since you've been at Malcolm X, you know that's not true. The theme of tonight's dinner is Malcolm X to the 3rd power. I thought that was kind of smooth. We expect to expand our experience. We expect to expand our experience. I'm going to start off with a story about my experience. When I graduated from high school, which was Cass Technical High School here in Detroit, where I know a couple of people in the room are going, I got a football scholarship to Florida A&M University. Mind you, at Cass Tech, I never filled out a college application. I didn't go to a school like Malcolm X, so I was a bit of a clown. I didn't get 3.0s and 4.0s while I was in high school. As a matter of fact, like Miss Dawson's daughter can tell you, I barely got through. I got 2.2s and 2.1s, 1.8s, and 1.5s. And one day I was all ready to play football. I had gotten in shape, and it was summertime, it was time to play football, and I had to take a class in the summer to be eligible. And I flunked the class. This was my 11th grade year. And they came to me and they said, well, you can't play football, you were ineligible. Crushed me. So I decided to do well, and I would get back in school, and I said, well, I'll play basketball, which is another sport that I played in high school, and I was ineligible again. So I went home one day, and my father said, you know, hey, are you retarded? And I said, no, Pops, I'm not retarded, man. What's wrong with you? He said, well, do the work. Do what you're supposed to do. You're too big and too old to be getting whooped. Do what you're supposed to do, or this is how your life is going to be. When I came back that next year, I did what I was supposed to do. I played football and got my name in the paper and did real good and got a scholarship to Florida A&M University. I was this big old guy, and I was bad and mean, and I was ready to go to school. The first day I walked into Florida A&M's locker room, there were 10 guys sitting in the locker room. Now, I was big and bad, and I was from Detroit, and I walked in that locker room, and I was the smallest guy in there. Everybody in that room was 6'5", 340 pounds, big necks, arms swole all up, walking around, talking about, what's up, dog? And I said, what's up? You know, I kind of eased out of the locker room and said, whoa, these are big old dudes in here. And we had to get roommates, and we were sitting at a table, something like the 8th graders were sitting there, and the coaches were talking to us, and they said, okay, pick roommates. So one guy looked at another guy and said, me and you, dog. Next guy, me and you, dog. And there was 2 guys left, me and this guy named Tim Green. Tim Green was 6'3", 340 pounds. He was from a little bitty tiny town called Barney, Georgia, where the big town is Hayhira, Georgia. That's where they go for fun. And he looked at me, and he had a bald head, swole all up. He looked over at me and said, hey, dog, I guess you my roommate. I said, hey, because he had a mean disposition. I didn't know what. So we got to the room, and we became friends. But I started noticing something about Tim, that he wouldn't go to parties, and he wouldn't hang out. And at Florida A&M, there was a lot of hanging out you could do. And every night I was out, in the middle of the party, but he wouldn't go. he always start doing his work, and he would stay, and the light would be on at night, and he'd sit there and do all of his homework. And I'd tell him, man, you're young. Why don't you come hang out with me? Go out. Come do something. And he wouldn't. Well, at the end of that season in November, we got a phone call in the room one night. They told him his grandmother had died. And I said, wow, your grandmother died. He said, man, I want you to come home with me. Your grandmother died. I said, yeah, I'll go with you. No big thing. So we rented a car and we started going to Barney, Georgia, which is about 2 hours away from Tallahassee, Florida. We're talking about expanding your experiences. He said, when you get to Barney, you're going to see something you never saw before. He said, my family is poor. I said, poor, man? Shit, I'm from Linwood. I done seen poor. I done seen, man, you can't show me no poster. He said, shut up, man, listen. You're going to see something you've never seen before. I said, all right. We pulled up to where his family lived, and it was an actual plantation with a big white house on the front, sugarcane field in the back, and you had 8 shacks, wood shacks surrounding the grounds. And in these 8 shacks, his whole family lived. The shack was so small that there was a bed in every room, even in the kitchen, because there was no other space for people to sleep. And when he pulled up outside these shacks, he stepped out the car, and it was like Michael Jordan had came to town, because people ran out of these shacks. And they said, Tim is home, and they announced it, and people jumped on his back, and they jumped around his legs, and kids were hanging on him, and Tim is back, and he kissing and hugging him, and I was like, God, who are you? And he pointed at me and said, he goes to the college too, so they ran over there and rushed me. I said, man, I had never seen anything before. When I come home, my cousins stuff, hey, what up, man, you back? No, that's it. That's it. All right, hey, man, yeah, get out of my way. And we went on to the funeral, and it was about, in this town, it was 150 people, and there were only 2 phones. No one in his family owned a phone. There was one phone at a junior food store, which was down a long road, which is like a 7-Eleven, and another phone inside that big white house in front of the plantation where an actual white man lived who owned the plantation. His family, for a living, chopped sugar cane for a share of the crop. So they were like slaves. That's what they did for a living. And I was watching this whole day, and I was watching everybody, and I was getting depressed. Because I had never seen anything like this before in my life. Well, the day went on, and one of his aunts, she saw me, and she said, are you okay, boy? I said, I'm fine. I'm fine. She said, no, you're not. You're lying to me. She said, you wondering why we act this way, aren't you? I said, yeah, I'm kind of wondering. Why are you all so excited to see him? Why are you all acting like this? She said, he's the first person in our family to ever graduate from high school. He's the first person in our family, we couldn't even dream this, to ever go to college. So when he comes home, yes, he is a hero in this town. I said, whoa, that's a lot of pressure. So the day went on, and we were leaving. People had baked us cakes and fixed us food, and they sent us in the car, and the whole town waved us goodbye. I'm telling you, I'd never seen anything like this in my entire life. 60, 70 people waving by. I mean, have a good time. They gave us gifts. They had knitted us sweaters and socks. I mean, literally giving us all they had. We drove away, and it was dead silence. You could hear a pin drop in the car, no radio or anything. He could tell I wanted to say something. I could tell he wanted to say something, but nobody talked. We drove for 2 hours in dead silence. Because I was looking out of this window, he was looking out of this window. And I was sitting there thinking, like, wow, I mean, I need to say something that, I can't. When brothers, when we get kind of sensitive, we kind of shy away from it and start, bobbing our heads, doing something else than dealing with that emotion that we had at that particular time. So we pulled up in front of the door, and he looked at me. And in his old Southern way, he said, man, why don't you just go and say something? I said, I don't have nothing to say. He said, do you see why I study all the time? I said, yeah. Do you see why I don't go to parties all the time? I said, yeah. And he told me a statement, which is what I'm going to talk about today, that I'll never forget as long as I live, because it changed my life. This simple guy from Barney, Georgia, changed my life. He said, the reason I don't do that type of stuff is because the entire hopes and dreams, all those people that you saw, are on my shoulders. And in my Detroit way, because that was deep for me, in my Detroit way, I was like, oh man, I'm glad that ain't me. Because I had to break that moment. And he said, what you mean it's not you? Now, a lot of times we think people in the South are dumb because of the way they talk. They got the slow drag, but boy, they got a lot of common sense. And he told me, he said, what do you mean you glad that ain't you? He said, you from Detroit, ain't you? I said, yeah. He said, you told me that you see little kids do mamas on crack. I said, yeah. He said, you see people begging at gas stations, and you see people that don't have nowhere to live. I said, yeah, I see all those type of people. He said, well, their entire hopes and dreams are on your shoulders. You just don't know it. See, I know who's dependent on me. You don't. I was blown away because he's right. Expanding our experiences. That whole day taught me a lesson that I learned for life. I didn't stop clowning, but I got a lot more serious about who I am and whose I am and why I'm here. That's what I want to talk to you about today, 8th grade. I ain't gonna get too deep. I see the brothers like, man, he getting deep. Man, I didn't know he was gonna be there. He was tripping at first. He getting deep on us. No, because you are blessed. I just told, me and James just had a conversation. James said, I said, what you doing? What extracurricular activities are you into? I was so I hoop a little, I do a little. James, I play the clarinet, I got a record deal, what? He's doing some things that young people don't do because he's blessed. You all have a tremendous advantage over a whole lot of people out here in these streets that you see every day. The question is, what do you do with it next? You're about to go into the next phase of life, which is a really fun phase of life. Don't let nobody tell you anything different. People trying to scare you about high school and what's going on in high school. This is the most fun you all will have in your lives that is coming up. But you have to balance that with the seriousness of their life, of the opportunity that you have. 8th grade is where we lose a lot of our young men and women in this world or in this city that we live in. I remember a guy named Kerry Simmons. We thought he was so good in basketball, we thought he had the ball on the string. From K through 8, I mean, he can dribble all around, he can pull it back out the air. I saw him the other day, and he's sitting in front of the store, he a crackhead. And I remember when it happened to him, 8th grade. The summer going to the 9th grade, he never was the same. He went to Northwestern, I went to Cass. Every year I saw him, it just got worse and worse and worse. What happened to him? He lost hope. He forgot who he was and whose he was. This year, while you all are going and trying to figure out what I'm gonna wear my first day of school, and I see a couple of brothers got their Versace down, and, they sweet, and they got No Limit on the radio bouncing. I see you, I saw you out there. Talking about nah. I saw you when I came in, I ain't blind. I saw you. While you're doing all that and while you're having some of that fun, you have to think about, where will I be next year? What will I be doing next year? People always say, where will I be 10 years from now? Forget 10 years from now. That's too long. Just think about something you can think about every day. Where will I be tomorrow? Where will I be next week? 10 years from now, I don't know what I'm going to do 10 years from now. So I know you all have an idea, I want to be this. When I was little, I wanted to be an architect. I just thought the word was sweet. What you want to be? I want to be an architect. What does an architect do? They architect. And that's what I wanted to be. Not because I thought they, drew up these wonderful plans. I wanted to build buildings too deep. I just wanted to be an architect. So when you start setting your goals over this summer, over this long summer, when you start going into your teenage years, Start thinking about where you want to be next year, who you want to be next year, what type of person you want to be next year. What are some things that you want to accomplish when you go into ninth grade? What are some things that you're looking to be a part of when you go into ninth grade? But the most important thing is never forget where you came from and never forget who got you here. That's why I had you stand up and give your parents a hand. Because, like James mentioned, my mom, she was a state representative. She was a state representative when I was 8. And all my life she was a state representative, and then I wanted a seat. And everybody put a mic in my face and said, you won because of your mom, didn't you? And for the first month, I was fighting that. Nah, man, I won because I won. I went to everybody, I knocked and I gave them lyrics and I told them who I was. But then I thought about the question. You're here because of your mom. Well, I guess so. The reason I never quit football is because of my mom. The reason why I graduated from college with a 3.5 is because of my mom. The reason why I went on to law school is because of my mom. The reason why I bought a house, where I got 3 houses, and I got a wife and 2 kids, and every day I'm home and taking care of them, is because of my mom. So a lot of things that I attribute to being me is because of the person, with God's help, that helped me get there. So next year, your parents clap, because I'm telling you this because next year they're going to be getting on your nerves. Your parents, these next 3-4 years while you're a teenager, they're going to get on your nerves. And you going to get on theirs. But you got to remember who you are and who got you where you are. Those people in the street that tell you to do one thing, they didn't get you where you are. Those influences out there that told you to do one thing and your mom or your dad is telling you to do something else, they didn't get you where you are. God gave us one incredible power that you all are going to have to use in these next few years, and that's the power to choose. That's the greatest power of all, the power to choose. Now, I can choose to be a crackhead. Couldn't I? I mean, I can choose. I know some people out there that'll teach me real quick. I can go right up to them. I can go right out there on Linwood, like right now, and say, man, you know what? Show me how to do it. I'll buy it. Show me how to do it. Straight. Or I can choose to be successful. I can choose to get good grades. I can choose to be beautiful. I can choose to be cool. I can choose to be tough. I can choose to be nice. I can choose whatever I want to be. And that choice is mine because God gave it to me. So when you're going on to these next few years in your life and that power is being tested every day like it is going to be. I see a couple people saying, no, I'm straight. You know, I'm cool. I've been in Malcolm X. I know the power of choice. You're okay. You're about to embark upon a new journey, a journey with expanded experiences. And those expanded experiences are going to be exponential. They're not going to be the same type of experiences that you experienced in Malcolm X. It's be that experience to the third power. So remember who you are, whose you are, and who got you there. Those are the 3 most important things you can do with your life. In closing, I would like to say, because, you know, I knew I was going to talk tonight, but since James freestyled his speech, I'm freestyling mine. No, I know what freestyle is, too. Amen. James mentioned that I was the youngest person in the House of Representatives. And a lot of people say that's some big thing, to be the youngest person in the House. I'm too old to be the youngest person in the House. The youngest person should be 21, 22, because 90% of the decisions that we make every day affect people way younger than me. I have to say this before I leave because I think it's important. I hate when we always talk about bad stuff, but I gotta say it. I got to. I visited the Wayne County Juvenile Detention Center Thursday. Majority of kids locked up in that facility, 14 years old. 84% of the kids in that facility, they either stopped going to school in high school, 9th grade, or they dropped out. 84%. So when your parents say, you know, if you stop going to school, you're going to be a fool. If you stop going to school, something bad is going to happen to me. Those are not cliches, that's the truth. So in saying that, I saw incredible potential in there. I got a chance to shoot ball with some of the fellas in there. And I got a chance to talk to them and to interact with them. Great minds. Great minds. But something happened to them. They start being pulled in all different type of directions. And they forgot why they were existing in this life. And something happened to them. They didn't become animals and maniacs. They just started doing the wrong thing. They quit going to school. And they ended up in that facility. No matter what happens to you, no matter what happens this next coming year, because I know you all are going to be successful. I was an 8th grade teacher at Marcus Garvey Academy, and I saw 4 classes go out of that school. And out of those 4 classes, I've seen some real tragedies in those classes. And I saw brothers that looked just like some brothers in here, and sisters that looked just like sisters in here, that got off track because they couldn't keep reminding themselves of whose they were and where they're going. I see the fire in your eyes, though. I see that you want to be successful. I see that when you see a car go down the street, you say, that's me in that car. Or when you see a house, you say, I want to own that house. Or when you see people starving, you say, I want him to have a chance at life. And when you see people who don't even have a possibility of being successful because they're so torn down and worn out in their own misery, you say, I want to be the one to help pick that brother or that sister up. That's the fire in you. And that's what I see in you. So no matter where you go and what you do from this point on, remember that that fire that you had when you were sitting in here listening to this loudmouth man on May 22nd, 1998. Because that fire can never die unless you want it to die. Because that's your power of choice. Thank you, 8th grade. Thank you, Marcus. Excuse me. I don't want to get cut. I don't want to get cut in here. Excuse me. Thank you, Malcolm X Academy, for inviting me out. And to the parents, you keep doing the wonderful job that you're doing. Thank you.
Okay, I have an announcement to make. A green Jeep in the parking lot. Alarm is going off. Anybody that owns that Jeep, please attend to the car.
Suburban.
Okay, now we will start the presentation of awards to the 8th grade graduates. Okay, first, Mama Spinner will present the scholarship, citizenship, and future teacher awards.
Who you are, whose you are, and who got you there. I had heard that he could speak. I had heard that he had something to say. I had heard that he was a chip off the block. I had heard that he would hold your interest and not let you go. This young man has spoken to you children. He is somebody. We must support him. We must keep our eyes on him because he is a shaker and a mover. When he comes back, be sure you all, and you children in particular, let him know that he did have something to say. How many of you like what he said? He said, remember who you are, whose you are, and who got you there. All righty, we're going to move on. Miss Dawson and Jeff said go ahead, so I'm going to move on with it.